Okay. Just make sure everyone's got a chair. Okay. All right, so I think you've got a chair there, Harvey. So, welcome everybody to the final council meeting for 2017. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and the voices and images of those participating in the meeting, including the gallery, may be captured as part of this recording. I'd like to start by acknowledging the original custodians of the land we're meeting on, pay respects to their elders past and present, and to any descendants who are here tonight. As councillors, we have all taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interests of the people of Indigo Shire and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We are all committed to exercising the council's powers and functions to the best of our skills and judgment. So, are there any apologies and leave of absence? No. Before we go any further, there's a few changes to the agenda that I'd like to sort out with the councillors. The first is that there is a new and urgent item of business for the agenda relating to the recruitment of the CEO, and that will be dealt with as item 17.2 in confidential. Just to let you know, because there's a contractual part to that discussion, it will be in confidential, so we won't be able to release that information tonight, but there will be a release put out first thing tomorrow morning, so the information will be made public then. The second is that I would like to move item 11.7 to be dealt with first. That's the item in relation to the age and disability reforms and council's future role. So rather than waiting, and I know a number of you here tonight would be here because of that item, rather than waiting for that to be dealt with later on in the meeting, council has decided it would be good to deal with that first up. Just to let you know that there is part of that item that will need to be dealt with in confidential, so that will be dealt with as quickly as possible, and then we'll be coming back to the meeting to deal with that whole item. So do I have someone to move and second that we make those changes to the agenda? Moved Councillor Shepherd, seconded Councillor Price. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. So the next item is any declarations of conflict of interest. No, thank you. We're moving to open forum. Our local law means that any questions need to be submitted in writing by 6 p.m. on the night of the meeting, so we only have one question tonight. It comes from Matt Evans, and Matt is from Ericsson Australia. So Matt, welcome again.
Thank you. And thanks again for the opportunity to ask the question. It relates to a matter that's not included in the council report for item 11.6, and the question is council aware that there are approximately 225 premises equating to approximately 515 people designated to receive service in the coverage area of the proposed NBN facility?
All right, well thank you very much for clarifying that for us, and I can say that we are now all aware of that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Okay. Are there any condolences? No. Confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting. The recommendation is that minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on 28th of September 2017 as published on the council's website be confirmed. Okay, thank you. So we'd include in that the statutory meeting on the 21st of November 2017 is also confirmed. Do I have someone to move to second that? Thank you, Councillor Goldsworthy. Seconder, Councillor Murdoch. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Item 8 is. Item 8 is business arising from the previous minutes. So responses for the open forum asked during the previous meetings are taken on notice. If they're taken on notice, the responses are provided in the agenda, so you're able to read those if you wish to see them. Item 8.b requires suspension of standing orders, and that is to announce a fire awareness award that has been received by people in our community. So do I have someone to move the suspension of standing orders? Councillor Shepherd, someone to second that? Councillor Murdoch, all those in favour? Okay, so I'd like to welcome Ian Burgess and Karen Van Heusen. So just to, you right there? Okay, so we've got Ian, who's here on behalf of the Indigo Valley community.
Certainly.
And Karen Van Heusen, who is the Fire Awareness Officer for Indigo Shire Council. And this is a Fire Awareness Award for the recovery, and also you made it to the 4 finalists for the RACV Award of Excellence out of 200 nominees. So this is a great tribute to the Indigo Valley community, and to Karen's work as the Fire Recovery Officer on behalf of Indigo Shire. So would you like to just say a couple of words about the award? And I believe you want to hand them over to us. Is that not that, but that? Okay, yeah, sure. I want that one. What's wrong with that one?
So the award has been given to the Community Recovery Committee, which is consists of community members, shire and agencies. So the recovery work that was done was a community-led process, which meant that it allowed the community to voice their needs, and both the shire and agencies worked together and collaboratively to actually provide those needs. So that was well done to the community for being able to express their needs and stand up and best stand for what they actually needed within the recovery. So we'd like to...
Sorry, Ian.
That's all right. I dropped the award last.
Sorry.
I will just say thank you to Karen and thank you to the Shire. It was a community-led recovery, and a number of activities went by the way, and we hope to present some books to document our history over the past 2 years and the history of the brigade. But unfortunately that didn't come off. They'll apparently be in town tomorrow. So, thank you.
And, yep,
This is actually a certificate for the Shire to display, do as they please with.
Okay, so Councillor Trenery will hang on to that and we'll make sure that's displayed in the foyer.
Yep.
And I just want to congratulate you again and really say that it was an amazing effort by the Indigo Valley community, to deal with what was a pretty terrible event in December 12 months ago.
Two years ago.
Yeah. 2 years ago,
tomorrow.
wow, okay. And also just to point out that Councillor Shepherd, who's among us tonight, is also a member of that community, and I know that you were very involved in that recovery process too, and people speak very highly of your efforts. So for the whole community and for the staff that were involved, thank you so much, and it's been a great thing that you've been recognised for that. Congratulations. Okay, so item 9, deputations and petitions, and Councillor Trenery, you have a petition to present tonight.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I've got a petition, councillors. This is from the community of Kiwa Tangambalanga. There's 316 confirmed signatures on this. I'll just read out, if I can, what the community was signing for. We, the community of Kiwa Tangambalanga, really value the Kiwa River, and the ability to be able to access the river is extremely important and a high priority for us. An opportunity has arisen for the Indigo Shire to make a submission to acquire the former Necma depot at Kiwa, which also includes access to the river. And then it goes on to say, if you are interested or you would like to see this happen, please sign. So that's the 313 signatures. So I'd just like recommend that the council receive this petition from the community of Kiwa Tangambalanga.
Okay, so we move that the petition be received. You've moved that, Councillor Trenery, seconder. Councillor Gaffney, all those in Favour. And in flavour, thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, so we're going to move to item 11.7. So this is the Age and Disability Reforms Council's future role. I want to point out that this is a huge decision for this council to be making, and we're very aware of the implications of that for our community. It's very important that everybody understands clearly that whatever the decision of tonight is, that these services will continue to be provided to people in our shire, and that our hope and ambition is that they will be provided by the staff that are currently doing that who wish to continue. So that's the key message that needs to come across tonight. It's also important to understand that this has come about for decision due to changes in funding arrangements from the Commonwealth Government and a change in their policy on aged care into the future. So we and other councils have been put in a position where we now have to consider the implications of that and a way forward for council. We want to make this decision tonight so that people are aware of what's happening into the future. They have some certainty as much as we possibly can provide that. And depending on the outcome of the decision, that we allow time to make sure that it's transitioned in a way that is in the best interests of both staff and clients. So that is why it's on the agenda for tonight. There are 6 items for decision. Item 5 requires us to consider a document that is confidential. So it is important that we do that in confidential. So I'm going to ask Council to move a motion that we go into confidential. We will do that as quickly as we can, and we will come back into the meeting to then get on with resolving the recommendation that has 6 items. So it's item 5 that we're discussing in confidential. The rest of it is on the public record. So do I have someone move that we discuss item 5 of item 11.7 in confidential? Councillor Goldsworthy, do I have a seconder? Councillor Price, all those in favour? Okay, so we'll need to move into confidential. Ordinarily at this time, I'd be asking all of you in the chamber to leave the room and you'd have to go and stand outside because in fact there's no privacy. But I think given the numbers of people here, in fact we might retire into the kitchen, which is the only space we have. And so we'll do that and we'll be back here in as quickly as we possibly can. All right, thank you for your patience. You're all back? All right. All right, we're back live streaming. So returning to item 11.7, that decision, just to clarify with the gallery, of item number 5 was decided in confidence and will remain a confidential item as per the request of the Commonwealth Government. It's not actually our decision. The recommendation is 1, that Council provides formal notice to the representatives of the Commonwealth Government Department of Health and Victoria State Government Department of Health and Human Services of its decision to exit its agreements to deliver services under the Commonwealth Home Support Program and Home and Community Care Program for younger people from the 30th of June 2018, subject to agreement by the Commonwealth. 2, directs that this period of notice be used to work constructively with the Commonwealth and Victorian state governments and other parties to manage an orderly transition process to a new provider that protects the interests of clients and their families. 3, notes that there will be a range of support measures offered to staff affected by this decision. 4, acknowledges and accepts that it is the responsibility of the Commonwealth and state governments to consider and appoint any new Commonwealth Home Support Program and HAC PYP providers. 5, endorses the amended recommendations of the Expression of Interest Assessment document provided as a confidential attachment to this report. And 6, receives further reports at the April and June 2018 Council meetings on the progress and status of the transition process and activities. Do I have someone to move that motion?
I'd like to move an amended motion, points 1, 2, 4 and 6.
Yeah. Okay. So do I have a seconder for that?
I'm not quite sure what the motion is, Madam Mayor.
So point 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6 would be voted on now, and recommendation point 5, which we've just considered in confidential, will be voted on as a separate motion. So do I have someone to second that proposal from
Regarding
Council?
item 5, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment, and that is that Council endorses the amended EOI assessment document provided as a confidential attachment to this report.
Yeah, I've already just moved. Oh, that was the one I put
Okay.
to the meeting. So the proposal from Councillor Goldsworthy is that we leave that as a separate item and we move items 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Murdoch. And do you wish to speak to that?
Yeah, thank you. The reason why I'd like to see them split is because it allows, I believe that the 5 items that were under discussion now, it allows us potentially to be unanimous in our feelings about it. Potentially item 5 will bring about a different result. I would rather see us show strong support for those items that are already listed there, 1 to 4 and number 6.
Okay. Councillor Murdoch, do you want to reserve your right? Anyone else wish to speak to the proposal that Councillor Goldsworthy's put forward? So the proposal is that that councillors decide on items 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6 at this point. All those in favour? All right. So I now move that items 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6 be put for decision. Do I have someone to move that? All right, seconded. I thought we moved that we could consider them. I think we did. Yes, so now I'm putting that, they've been considered, there's been an agreement. Now I move that Council makes a decision on points 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6. Do I have someone to move that? That they be approved. Councillor Goldsworthy seconded. Councillor Murdoch. Do you need to speak to it again, Councillor, about those recommendations?
Thank you. This is part of the process in bringing about a fundamental change in the way that we'll be doing business in relation to home support program and the hack services. We need to do it for a number of reasons, one of which is the Commonwealth Government is the primary provider of this service, and it's beginning to become rather expensive for the council, and it's forecast to only be a further burden on the ratepayers. We have to make sure that our primary concern is around our staff and the clients that are serviced by the staff, and I believe that these 5 motions actually, or 5 parts of it, do that. So it's maintaining a good, strong process and hopefully supporting those that need it.
Any other councillors wish to speak to those items? Yes, Councillor Shepherd.
I was just wanting to ask a few questions, if I could. Yeah. So, to the Director of Development and Community Services, we've made an assumption here that our community wouldn't want to subsidise this, and pay the $10, $15 to make sure that ensure that our aged people are cared by the council, by us, by our services we already have. I'm just wondering if you could answer, how can we make that decision with it, not knowing that?
So, through the Chair, the analysis and assessment of this whole particular issue has been based on the direction that's been outlined by the federal government through a number of reviews. So there's been the Aged Care Review, the Tune Review, the Productivity Commission Review, to name a few, which all point to the market being opened up to other providers post-2020. And part of that move to an open market system would introduce competition neutrality policy and obligations to all providers. So for a council, whether it's Indigo Council or any other council, we would not be able to provide the service and provide a ratepayer subsidy as part of that service, which would the assessment has determined would make us vulnerable within that open market.
And can I just ask another question? So I see we've also said that we can play an important role in supporting an effective transition, and I'm wondering how Council's going to transition if we make this decision.
So Council has already employed a specific transition coordinator, which was put in place regardless of whether the decision was to exit or to remain, because even if Council decides to remain, there will be a transition process to the new open market, which would need some specialist support. So Council made the decision best part of 6 or 8 months ago to employ a transition coordinator to support the process either to remain or to exit. If Council adopts the recommendation as it is tonight, that transition coordinator will spend a significant amount of time supporting the transition to a new provider.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Price.
I think it's important that we reflect some of the questions that we've had from the community. So the one that I've been having the most is, why has this decision come at Christmas time? What has got us to this point?
Yeah, that's a fair question, and quite a difficult one for Council to be considering at this particular time, and for officers to making that recommendation at this particular time. I suppose the funding arrangements associated with these programs are generally financial year, so 1st of July. The next available opportunity for Council to make a decision on this would be at the February meeting, at the end of February. As it's noted here, it's the Commonwealth and State's responsibility to appoint a new provider. So we've been advised that the state and federal process would be close to a month or 6 weeks. So if the decision is made in February, at say the end of February, February 28th I think the meeting is, if the Commonwealth and the state take 6 weeks, we are then into April, which then allows a May and June transition, which becomes quite problematic, which means that possibly the transition moves into the new financial year, which creates some funding issues as well. And we also took the view that by bringing this to Council now allows as best as possible, a longer transition period to accommodate the needs of the clients and also the needs of and the responsibilities that we have to staff.
Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Shepherd. Oh, sorry, Councillor Price.
I was just
Councillor
wondering what's going to happen to our staff if this occurs.
So it's quite obviously a challenging time for our staff, and we've had a number of meetings and discussions with our staff across the journey, and with the support of their union as well, where it applies. And we've always, and as part of this process, we've discussed with potential providers the opportunities for staff. Each of the potential providers have given strong indication that all of our staff that wish to be considered for employment with a new provider, that will be accommodated. And obviously, Council has its full responsibilities in terms of its entitlements, supporting staff with entitlements and obligations.
Any other questions for clarification? Thank you, Mark Lawrence, for your answers. Okay, so I'm returning to the motion. We have a move by Councillor Goldsworthy, second by Councillor Murdoch. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Yes, Councillor Trenery.
Thank you. I'd just like to say this has been an absolute thorough process from start to finish. For those that are unclear, about 2.5 years ago I moved a motion to keep HAC services because I thought it was best for the clients, and I think staff, both that deal with the clients and staff that are in this room today, as well as councillors, put front of mind is the clients, and that we look after our vulnerable people. And I think this motion and what it's come to at this stage, that's what we're doing. We're putting the clients first, and it is a hard decision, but I think that's the most important part of the decision.
Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Yes, Councillor Price.
I'd like to reiterate what Councillor Trenery said, but also to say again that the clients and the staff are at the front of our mind when we're making this decision. And if you're unclear of the explanation that we've been giving you, then to make contact either with all of the councillors or the staff to have an explanation, to hold us to account that this transition will be appropriate and fair, and to speak to our transition officer, Angela Verdi, also.
Okay, thank you. So again, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour of passing items 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6, raise your hands. Carried. So that brings us to item 5 in the recommendation, and that item is that Council endorses the amended recommendation of the EOI assessment document, which is a confidential attachment to this report. Councillor Goldsworthy, you wish to deal with it as a separate item? Okay, anyone else wish to move that? Councillor Price, seconded. Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Price, do you wish to speak to that? No? Councillor Gaffney?
I'd certainly like to, Madam Mayor, but it's a confidential report with confidential recommendations, and I think councillors have acted in the best interest of the community, best interest of carers, and in the best interest in those in need of care. I'm only referring to item 5.
Thank you. Any other council wish to speak to that? Yep, Councillor Goldsworthy.
This component of the motion was the most difficult to deal with. It came down to 2 choices, and whilst I can't elaborate on them, I can only hope that it works out for the best outcome for the community as a whole. I think we've all struggled with this as to which way was the best way forward.
Anyone else wish to speak to that? Okay, I'll put the item. All those in favour? Carried. Okay, so we're going to return to the rest of the agenda, and we are now at item 10.1. 10.1? So if people were here for that item and you wish to leave the gallery, by all means do so now, because we've got a long meeting ahead of us, and if you're not particularly interested in the rest of it, that's fine. Thank you. You are gorgeous, Councillor. Okay, item 10.1, the November Finance Report. Okay, the recommendation is that Council accept the November 2017 Finance Report. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Goldsworthy, a seconder. Councillor Gaffney. Do you wish to speak to it? Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor?
I'd just like to say that with the report, that because of the extension of the snow season, that Indigo Shire benefit to the tune of $89,000 in income because of what's a Buller gas, which has been a good old cash cow for council.
Okay, any other comments about the November Finance Report? Councillor Goldsworthy, you look like you better sum up.
Whilst we have had income of $89,000, I do believe we had additional expenses of perhaps around 56 or something similar. I think there was a net profit around 30-something thousand, but it wasn't all profit. But we are looking very favourably financially, and I would say that the item listed about the rates of $132,000 is something we can be very happy about.
Okay, any other No, definitely not. Any other statements from councillors about the November 2017 Finance Report? I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 10.2, Council Advisory Committee Minutes. The recommendation is that Council receives the attached unconfirmed Advisory Committee Minutes and endorses the Officer comments. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Price, seconded. Councillor Murdoch. Do you wish to speak to it? No? Councillor Murdoch? No, I think it's self-explanatory. Okay. Oh, Councillor Shepherd.
I just would, interested in finding out, it says that the Children Recreation Reserve returned their $1,500 community grant to the Indigo Shire Council for the money to be held in trust. I was just wondering what the story is. Just anyone know why they're returning the $1,500?
Well, basically, they won't be able to use it at the moment because they've got to confirm that the team is going to play, and so they will put that aside for another day and make sure that that it's going to be used for what it is. If it can't be used, then it'll have to be returned.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Questions? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 10.3, the Assembly of Councillor Records. The recommendation is that Council receives the attached Assembly of Councillor Records and endorses the Officer comments. Are there any... sorry, do I have someone to move that? Councillor Price, seconded. Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to speak to it? Councillor Shepherd? Anyone else wish to comment? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. 10.4, rate cap variation. The recommendation is that Council does not seek a rate cap variation for the 2018-19 financial year. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Goldsworthy, seconded. Councillor Gaffney. Do you wish to speak to it?
It would be very hard to justify any rate cap variation without a long-term financial plan. I don't foresee that it will happen in the term of this council, but I may be wrong.
Okay, Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To seek a variation would only increase the burden on the ratepayers of Indigo Shire Council. There is certainly no appetite in the community to increase rates above the rate cap, and there is no substantial or compelling reason to do so. At this stage, Christmas come early. At this stage, we are living within our means, which is a very good idea.
Okay. Any other comments about the rate cap variation? Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? And I'd like to thank the staff for their work on ensuring that the budget was put together without needing to apply for a variation, as other small rural councils have had to do. 10.5, the additional internal audit. The recommendation is that Council authorises the addition of a credit card, fuel card, need to pay the electricity bill, and standing account use internal audit in the current financial year at a cost of $8,460. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Gaffney, do I have a seconder? No, motion lapsed. 11.1, the municipal public health...
Point of order, Madam Mayor. I don't think you gave all councillors much of a chance.
Oh, do I have a seconder for that motion?
But I'd also say, if you're going to call a point of order, our local law does say that you need to specify where it is in the local law that you're calling it, and I don't believe that there is a time specification for the calling of a seconder.
All right, thank you for that, Councillor Goldsworthy.
Perhaps
I'm going to go back to the motion. The motion was put by Councillor Gaffney. Is there a seconder? Motion lapsed. Thank you. 11.1, Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan. The recommendation is that Council endorses the draft Indigo Shire Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan 2017 to 2021 and place it on public exhibition for public comment for a period of 60 days. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Trenery. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Murdoch. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor?
Madam Mayor, it's very important that I think that we heavily advertise this particular report and we get people to have a look at it and do come back. It's 60 days. It is a very important read for the community, and I think there's things in there that the community would react to. So I'm very happy it's out there for 60 days and I'll await everyone's reply.
Okay, Councillor Murdoch, do you wish to speak?
No, only that I endorse those remarks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Shepherd.
I think anyone who's read the agenda can see that there's some great things that we want to look at, and I ask people who are involved with football and sporting areas to look at the safer alcohol culture discussion and have some involvement in that. But I also want to bring up the fact that the mental health and the arts, and I'd really encourage the arts community to have some feedback into this process as well, because I think that's, this document is then what we are able to apply for funding with. So I think there's opportunities within the arts and mental health that we could cover. So not only, I'd like everyone to look at it, but include the arts and culture as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors wish to make comment on this? All right, I'll put the recommendation that the plan be put out for public comment for a period of 60 days, the draft plan, I beg your pardon. All those in favour? Carried. And I would like again to thank those responsible for this. It's an excellent draft plan, and I'd particularly like to mention Anna McKinlay, who was the consultant that put this together and did an excellent job and briefed council on this. So, and to all of those that had input, including our staff who have worked very hard on this. And again, just to reiterate what Councillor Shepherd said, we really want people to put their views on this. It'll be available on our website as of tomorrow morning. It'll be available in hard copy at our information centres if you want one, and it'll be on Facebook. So have a look at it and let us know what you think. 11.2, the Economic Development Strategy. The Council endorses, the recommendation is that Council endorses the draft 2017 to 2021 Indigo Shire Economic Development Strategy and places this on public exhibition and invites community comments for a period of 60 days. Councillor Goldsworthy to move that. Seconder? Councillor Shepherd. Do you wish to speak to it?
This is a culmination of a lot of work. We did have a consultant come in and do it and consult heavily with the community. It's a document worth reading. It's around 3 strategies: place-based economic development, major tourism infrastructure and industry retention and diversification. There are a number of actions within it. We celebrate our successes in the past, and they've been quite considerable of recent years. If you look at the rail trail from Beechworth to Yakandanda, and a number of other initiatives like placemaking in Rutherglen and the Chiltern. Excuse me. So whilst this needs to go out for further consultation, I'd like to see us engage heavily with our Chamber of Commerce and like organisations. This is a really good start to creating an even more vibrant and economically sustainable Indigo Shire.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to speak as a seconder?
I think this is a great document. I know there's a fair bit of discussion in our business community around what we're doing as a council, and I think this document will be well read by our business community. But it's not only the business community; it's also looking at agriculture and tourism, and it's looking beyond just our shop base. And I encourage, as you have said, to encourage everybody who's got any interest in economic development within the Shire to read a document. It's very readable, and to just even send an email and reply and what you think about the strategy.
Anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a comment from the community who asked me to mention that when trees were cut down at the old Beechworth Jail, we were told that it is privately owned and nothing to do with council. Yet in this strategy, the old Beechworth Jail and acre are mentioned on page 176, 178, 187, 190 and 191.
Thank you, Councillor. Just to be clear, I think private enterprise is part of the economic development strategy.
I was just asked to raise it, Madam Mayor, and I've done that.
That's okay, and that's a fair comment, and I'm just responding. So yeah, private business, of course, is part of our economic development strategy and is mentioned throughout the document, which includes the old jail. Are there any other comments from councillors? I put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Passed. Carried. 11.3, Yakandanda Early Morning Swimming Trial Season Extension Proposal. The recommendation is that Council authorises a 4-week trial extension to the early morning opening hours of the Yakandanda swimming pool at the end of the 2017-18 season. Councillor Murdoch would like to move that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Trenery. Okay, so would you like to speak to that?
Yes, this is a similar program that they have at Rutherglen, and Rutherglen have been doing it for a couple of years now, and it's worked very well. The community gets in and opens the pool themselves and makes sure everything's going all right, and they have found that it's very successful for people who want to continue their swimming for a bit longer, not just during the times the council has arranged. And I think that Yakandanda, of course, are a community that will also get into this and make sure that it works. And it's fantastic. It's a fantastic sport for everybody to get involved in.
Thank you. Councillor Trenery.
I know there's a lot of senior people from Yakandanda that use this and would like to continue to use it in the mornings. It is a social occasion for them, as well as fitness, and I think it sort of covers off on a lot of things that Indigo Shire is talking about in regards to seniors and senior health. So I certainly do commend this to happen.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Price.
Just that I know that there are concerns around our pool opening times and how short they are, so I think it's important for us to be responsive to the community when they express a desire for an extension of these hours, whether that's in Rutherglen or Yakandanda or in other communities. If it's viable, we're open to having the discussion.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Shepherd.
I just wanted to say that, of course, this comes to you from the Indigo Shire, having supported the solar, the solar innovation at the Yakandanda pool. So that's the reason why we can do it, is because we've got the solar now. So that was great innovation.
Okay. Just make sure our interim CEO's all right. I think he's all right. So one of you guys, you're sharing now. Okay. Anyone else wish to speak? Nope. All right, I'll put the motion that we authorise the 4-week trial at the Yakandana swimming pool. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, councillors. 11.4 is the Kew Springs Water Extraction Monthly Compliance Report. Before I actually take that further, I will just mention that tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m, the Supreme Court will be handing down the decision in regard to the Stanley Inc. community appeal around the former decision of the Supreme Court about the water extraction that's taking place in Stanley. So we'll all be very interested to see what happens with that appeal, and at that stage we will again review what we're doing with this particular report, which for now we are maintaining on a monthly basis. So the recommendation is that Council notes the Kew Springs Water Extraction Facility monitoring report content and the action undertaken where required. Do I have someone to move that? I've got lots of people. I'll go Councillor Price, seconder. No one to second it. Yeah, good, Councillor Murdoch. Anyone wish to speak to that? Okay, all those in favour? Carried, thank you. 11.5, Amendment C69, the Stanley Structure Plan and Rezoning. The recommendation is that Council requests the Minister for Planning to appoint a panel to hear the submissions, of which I believe there were 17, and consider proposed Amendment C69 to the Indigo Planning Scheme. Point 2, refer the submissions to the panel. Point 3, in its submission to the panel hearing, adopt a position in support of Amendment C69, generally in accordance with the Office's response to the submissions as contained in this report. And 4, advises the submitters to proposed Amendment C69 of Council's decision. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Gaffney, do I have a seconder? Councillor Goldsworthy, do you wish to speak to that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This was first mooted and came to Council in 2011 to proceed with this amendment. It's taken a long time, but it's a huge step forward for Stanley, a new township zone and a new rural activity zone. Tourists love clean, green, fresh food, freshly brewed coffee, and of course Stanley's famous for its nuts and berries. Stanley will be able to have a new cafe, perhaps a restaurant, but no major change. The council has always defended the right to farm, and I would hope that this will not change. Agriculture and Stanley go hand in hand. This amendment will not change that. Stanley is a very special place and always will be. That will not change. Recommending this to go to an independent panel is a sound decision.
Thank you, Councillor. And the seconder, Councillor Goldsworthy, do you wish to speak to it?
Just to say, there's a little time off before that all occurs. It'll go through a process, so it may be a number of months still before we get to see any changes.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak to this? I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. 11.6 is the planning permit application PP 170203 telecommunications facility for a 45-metre high monopole at 76 Payne Road, Beechworth. The recommendation is that Council approves this planning permit to allow the development of the land for a telecommunications facility subject to the following conditions and issue a notice of decision to grant a permit. I won't actually read through all those conditions. They're there in the agenda for anyone that wishes to read them. Do I have someone to move that? Moved and seconded. Councillor Trenery moved, seconded Councillor Goldsworthy. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Trenery?
Obviously, we need these facilities for Beechworth to progress in regards to NBN and also mobile phones. We've had that come up as well. So obviously it needs to be put somewhere. It's never going to be absolutely perfect, but it's certainly essential.
Okay. Councillor Goldsworthy?
most of those forums that we go to, it seems to be that communications in one form or another is raised as an issue. The NBN is a significant one for most communities within the Indigo Shire. This goes some way of assisting people access the NBN in the Beechworth area.
Okay, yes, Councillor Shepherd.
I think the last time we had a similar application, I was concerned about the co-location, and I'm just interested in, I see here that the landholder wasn't, sorry, I just got to see what it says, that the applicant advised the landowner was not willing to enter into a lease for the NBN ground equipment. So I was just wondering why, do we know why the landholder was not interested in the lease?
So, yeah, Mark Florence.
Without being exact, my understanding is that there were concerns about the amenity to the property by having the infrastructure on the ground as opposed to on the pole.
So it's a bigger infrastructure on the base?
Yeah,
okay.
My understanding, yes.
Any other?
No, but I am concerned with the number. I know it is an issue, communication in our shire, but it is something I think we need to keep an eye on, the co-location of. And I can see there is a process that's gone through here, and it's a reasonable process. But you know, it's just something we have to keep in mind, I think.
Yep. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from councillors? Wish to speak to the motion? Okay. Do you wish to sum up, Councillor Trenery?
No, that's fine.
All right. So all those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 11.7 we've dealt with. Item 12, infrastructure services. 12.1, the Yackandandah Community Centre lease. The recommendation is that Council notes the long-standing occupancy of the Yackandandah Community Centre of the premises located at 29 High Street, Yackandandah, confirms its intention to enter a lease for a period with Yackandandah Community Centre for a period of up to 20 years, a 10-year initial period plus 2 5-year extension options for the use of the building at 29 High Street, Yackandandah for an amount of $1 per annum. That officers place a public notice of the proposed lease and seek submissions from the public in accordance with the relevant sections of the Local Government Act. Should no objections be received by the nominated deadline, in response to the public submission process, the lease to be granted, signed and sealed by the Chief Executive Officer, and should any objections be received, a further report be brought to Council for it to consider submissions and make a decision in relation to the proposed lease. Do I have someone to move that motion? Councillor Shepherd, a seconder. Councillor Trenery. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Shepherd?
This building has been leased by the Yackandandah Community Centre for as long as I've been in Yackandandah. I can remember going there with my little children and to toy library at the back. I've done life drawing, yoga, been to so many meetings at this place. It has been really the life centre of Yackandandah, and a lot of good things have happened out of there. And I'd really like to support that we continue using that space by the community, and it's a well-used space.
Thank you. Councillor Trenery? All right. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor Murdoch.
Just to say that even coming from Chiltern, I've used that facility before for computers and in the early days, so it has been a very well-used facility.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Oh, sorry, Councillor Trenery. Oh, sorry. Thank you.
I just wanted to add that, I mean, some of the things that have come out of there that have been reasonably successful. I know there's been a lot of meetings with Tri at the start when Tri was getting up and getting going, and also Tri did some work there in regards to efficiencies right at the start as well, and that's been obviously a huge success. Indigo FM right across the Shire started in that building, and that's obviously been a huge success. The current Chamber of Commerce, we had our original meetings there, and so it's facilitated a lot of good things in the, not just in Yackandandah but also in the Shire.
Yep, great. Do you wish to sum up? All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. 13.1, the purchase of land for the old NECPA depot at Kiwa. So the recommendation is that Council resolves to authorise the Chief Executive Officer to purchase the old North East Catchment Management Authority depot on Kiwa East Road for an amount of up to the value which is shown in a confidential report. If successful, that it's we fund the purchase from Council's cash reserves, and B, to authorise the Chief Executive Officer to sign and seal the contract of sale and do all other things necessary to complete this purchase. Do I have someone to move that motion? Councillor Trenery. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goldsworthy. Do you wish to speak to that?
What an amazing journey. We've been trying to get something for the Kiwa Tangambalanga community. I think it is the only town that's on the Kiwa River that doesn't have access to the Kiwa River. Every other town from Mount Beauty down has access. So we've been pushing and trying a lot of different angles to get this access, and for it to come up now when we've had some negativity in that area, I think this would be absolutely fantastic if we can make this happen. And I note that it's for, it really is for community use, so that it's not just river access, it could be other things that'll happen in time, so I certainly commend it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Goldsworthy. No? Anyone else wishes? Yes, Councillor Murdoch.
I would like to say that if this motion gets up, I know there's another ex-councillor from that way who would be absolutely thrilled because he's been pushing for this for a long time. So, Peter Croucher. Thank you.
Councillor Gaffney.
The Kiwa River is a great place to fish and a great place to swim, and I'm sure it will be very good for families, not only at Kiwa Tangambalanga, but could become a very good tourist attraction.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers for the motion? Councillor Trenery, do you wish to say anything else? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 14, there are no notices of motion. Item 15 is the diary of my diary from November. Any questions around that? It's available for the public to see. So item 16 is general business. I'll just point out before we do this that we're going to go back into confidential in item 17 to deal with two items. One is the Australia Day Awards, and the announcement of those will be made closer to Australia Day, so we're just going to approve those tonight if Council agrees. And the second is, as I mentioned earlier, dealing with the appointment of the CEO, of which we can publicly comment tomorrow if we approve of this, once contracts have been signed, etc. That's the reason we can't announce it tonight. So, before we go into confidential, I guess I'm just giving you the heads up that we'll go into confidential and we'll come back out to close the meeting. We won't be able to tell you anything that we decided during that time, so some of you may not wish to hang around for that. Before we do that though, we're up to general business. So is there any general business for tonight? Councillor Gaffney.
We went to a forum last Tuesday night at Waggunya, and they then mentioned their concerns about the mosquitoes and about Ross River fever and Barmer fever as they're on the Murray River. I believe that Council's got something in train. I was just wondering if I could be told what that was.
Yes, Mr. Florence.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So last year, the state government funded a number of councils to support the treatment of mosquitoes, given the wet period last year. And as part of that, there was the development of a mosquito management plan. So we are progressively activating that in the lead up to what will be the peak of the mosquito time. We also have some equipment and chemicals available from last year, which we will begin to focus on the Waggunya area now that we know that there are concerns over there.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councillor?
They also raised the matter of solar on the building, and I spoke to the interim CEO about it, and he considered that some people from his staff could have some dialogue with the leaders of that community.
So Councillor, is that you've made a comment there? Do you want a report back on that? Are you requesting a report?
No, I'd just like someone to engage with them and tell them what the actual options are. And there was some talk about moving a motion to rescind, which I haven't done, but they certainly sent a message to us last Tuesday.
Okay. Do you wish to comment?
Yes, so we'll make contact with them.
Okay, great. Any other items for general business? No. Okay, well, before we go into confidential, given that some of you might not want to hang around, can I just wish you all a happy Christmas, a safe holiday time. We will be back in February for the next council meeting on the 27th and hope to see you there. I would like to thank all of you who have been engaged throughout the year with us. We really appreciate your input. We don't always love it, but we are very, very glad that we have such an engaged community. And I also want to thank the staff for a huge amount of work this year, particularly in our CEO leaving and all of you stepping up into roles to support and maintain the organisation during that process. Thank you to all of you, in particular our interim CEO, Greg Pinkerton, who has done a sterling job. And for those who might be watching tonight, I guess we on behalf of Council, wishing you all a very happy and safe Christmas period and a happy new year, and look forward to 2018. Thank you. And then we'll move into confidential. So I need whoever moves us into confidential. Okay, do I have a motion to move into confidential?
Yep.
Councillor Price? So the motion is that Council close the meeting to the public under the powers of section 89.2A, 89.2D and 89.2H of the Local Government Act to discuss Australia Day Awards and the CEO appointment. Moved by Councillor Shepherd. A seconder? Oh, sorry, Councillor Price, sorry. Seconded Councillor Shepherd. All those in favour of moving into confidential? So we're out of confidential, and I would now like to call the meeting closed.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney.
On the bottom of the agenda, it says next meeting, which I can't attend, on the 25th of December 2017. I'm an apology that day, Madam Mayor, and I'm asking for leave of absence.
Actually, I'm not clear. I'm not clear that I'll grant you the leave of absence, Councillor. I think I'll put a motion. Does everyone agree that on Christmas Day, Councillor Gaffney should have the day off?
Perhaps
All
we could have
those
the
in
meeting at
favour?
Councillor Gaffney's house.
All right, I'd like to declare the meeting closed and wish you all a very happy Christmas, and thank you for such a huge year. And it's been great working with this team of councillors and staff. Thank you.